you a little idea on Trinity Life and Family Benefit, we specialize in smaller face, simplified issue, term life, whole life. We're more known in the industry for our final expense, and we also write a lot of traditional fixed annuities. I'm going to show you a U.S. map here, and what you're going to see is the states that are in green are states that we sell underneath the name of Trinity Life Insurance, and states that are in blue we sell underneath the name of Family Benefit Life. Now, both of these companies have the exact same final expense product. It's the same rate, same questions, same underwriting. Everything is identical, just other than the name of the company on that piece of paper. If you're in a state that is in white, please be patient. I anticipate within about the next few years, we're going to be doing another round of state expansion. So we'll be selling in your state, hopefully in the near future as well. The product of Trinity Life and Family Benefit that we're going to visit most about today is our Golden Eagle final expense product. We've been selling this product for about 20 years. And the reason why I want to mention that is we've had very few changes with our final expense product during this time frame. And the reason why, in my opinion, I think that's very important is when you choose to do business with the companies that you want to do business with, you're going to want that company to be predictable for the long haul. And that's what agents have found with both our companies, Trinity Life and Family Benefit. One of the reasons for that, like I indicated a little bit ago, is I started my career as an independent agent, and we're going to be one of a very few companies you'll ever run across that I, as marketing vice president, even the founder of our company, Greg Zahn, we both started our careers as independent agents. So we've given thousands of presentations, and we know what it's like to support a family on a commission basis. So we've been in your shoes. Now, getting into the final expense product itself, we do offer it either as a simplified issue, which is a day one death benefit. That is for ages 50 to 85. And the face amounts of our simplified issue is $2,500 to $25,000. Then we also offer it as a graded death benefit. And our graded death benefit is ages 50 to 80. The face amounts are $2,000 to $10,000. You will find, though, that our graded death benefit is going to work a little bit different than some of your other companies. And it'll even be different than like your guaranteed issue, where a lot of times companies will maybe pay a certain percentage each, in the first year and the second year. How ours works is the first year, it's actually a factor based on whether it's a male or female, tobacco or non-tobacco, and issue age. And those factors are usually range anywhere from about 15 to 30%. And so if your client passed away in the first year on a graded death benefit, you would take that factor, which is in your agent guide, as well as our rate calculators, which calculate it for you, of course. But it takes that factor times the ultimate death benefit. So if that factor is 25%, it's a $10,000 death benefit. If they die in the first 12 months, it'll pay the family $2,500. Then if it's in months 12 through 24, it'd be a minimum of 50%. And then months 25 and beyond is the full death benefit. You will find, though, with Family Benefit and Trinity Life, the majority of the business that you would write with us is going to be simplified issue. Only about 3% of our business is graded death benefit. And a lot of the reason for that is for some of the health reasons that cause us to be graded, such as like a COPD or hepatitis. Other companies will sometimes take that as a standard day one death benefit. It might be a lot higher premium than ours, but at least it's a day one death benefit. Now, we often hear agents say that Trinity Life and Family Benefit, that they say that we seem to understand the final expense clientele, but a lot better than many other final expense companies these days. And I think, I think a lot of that goes back to our executive management has been out in the field, and we've sold final expense. We've made the presentations. We've lived on the commission basis. But one of the biggest things is we understand that when it comes to your client, the consumer, we know that they don't care what name a company is on that piece of paper because they're buying who you suggest and recommend. So most important to the client is obviously you got to be competitively underwritten. and you got to be competitively priced. On the underwriting side of things, I've seen some companies over the years, if they were too lenient, they were basically buying claims, and a couple of years later, they either got out of the business or they tightened up the app. No agent would want to do business with them. And same thing on the premiums. If they have the lowest premium in the business, they're probably not charging enough. They're going to have an increase in premiums. Or if they're charging too much, then no agent's going to do business with them because it makes it too difficult of a sale, or it makes it real easy for another agent to come in and replace it. So with Trinity Life and Family Benefit, I think what you'll find is we're very competitively underwritten and we're very competitively priced. But in my opinion, one of the most important things to the consumers in the final expense business is we got to beat them to the bank when it comes to their draft dates. We know that we can't draft a day too soon because the money's not going to be there. But if we wait and draft a day late, the money's not going to be there either. One of the things that we're going to talk about in a little bit that allows us to more accurately time your client's premium payment is going to be our Social Security benefit billing system for checking and savings accounts, especially when your client's draft dates occur on the 1st and the 3rd of the month when they fall on the weekend. Now, one of the reasons why that's so important is because, as we all know, majority of final expense consumers live on Social Security or disability income. And the government, as you know, only pays them 5 times a month: the 1st of the month, the 3rd of the month, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Wednesdays of the month. And the Wednesdays are really good because banks are open, but the 1st and 3rd of the month are horrible because banks are closed. They often fall on Saturdays, Sundays, or what I call the party weekends: New Year's, 4th of July, and Labor Day. And when that happens, as you know, the government actually deposits money into their account on the Friday before the weekend. So what our Social Security benefit billing system does is if that 1st or 3rd falls on a Saturday or Sunday, we actually draft their accounts on the Friday before the weekend. And again, the reason why that's so important is you've probably discovered, for those of you who've been writing final expense for some time, you know that not all your clients, but a chunk of them, they know when they get paid. And if that money's in their account on Friday, they're going to walk down to that ATM on Saturday. They're going to pull out everything but $5 in cash, and they're going to use that as they're walking around money for alcohol, lottery tickets, and bingo cards. Then the company's going to come and draft that account on Monday. Money's gone. You get a notification 2-3 days later that, hey, your client's bank account came back insufficient funds. You try to catch up with the client, and they say, oh, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to have that money till next month. You go see them next month, and then what happens? Well, I can't afford 2 months, so the policy falls off. You get a chargeback of your advanced commissions. Our agents, because of our Social Security benefit billing system, they don't necessarily have that challenge as much because they will have a higher persistency with our companies because of this. And ultimately, that helps you keep more money in your pocket, so you make more money over time with our companies based on that system alone. What a lot of the agents, though, do like about our system, as well as that Social Security benefit billing system, is, as I'd mentioned earlier, we strive to be predictable. Our system, it is built on, I'm going to come back to this slide here. I want to talk about this next topic a little bit. Our system is built on that if your client is honest with you at the time of application, you have a really good idea how that policy is going to be issued. The reason why that's important in being predictable is so that way when it comes time to sitting down and visiting with the client after choosing if they can qualify, is if you know that if they're going to qualify with us or not, that way you're not wasting their time and your time, which obviously is money to you as well. So when we're talking about being an easy company to be predictable, one of the things that we do and strive for is that if your client is honest with you at the time of application, you have a really good idea of how that policy should get issued. We have a very straightforward, straight follow-through system when it comes to our underwriting and its requirements. For example, one of the things that we do on the application, as you can see, we do have a height and weight question. The build chart is in the agent guide, so we don't hide it from you. One of the things I do want to point out is on this application, there's a question that asks about any weight loss in the last 12 months. If you run across a client who has had a weight loss, how our system underwrites it is if whatever weight loss they've lost in that last 12 months, it's going to add half of that weight back. So let's say you had a client who is 5'3", 240, and they've lost 60 pounds in the last 12 months. Well, the computer is going to underwrite that, and it's going to add half of that 60 pounds back. So it'll underwrite them based on 5'3", 270. The 240 plus half of the 60 is the 270. So it'll underwrite them based on that. So I just want to make sure you're aware of that if you're visiting with a client who has had a weight loss. The next thing that you'll see in our underwriting process on our application is we have what I call the 10 knockout questions. Now, these are questions similar to some of your other companies. If your client answers yes to questions 11 through 20, or these 10 knockout questions, the proposed insured is not eligible for any coverage. So in other words, don't even waste your time with the phone interview. They're going to be flat declined. Then you'll see there are 2 questions on the bottom of the application, and these are going to determine if the product is going to be issued, simplified, or graded. If your client answers no to both 21 and 22, then it'd be a simplified day 1 death benefit. So what that would mean is they qualified height and weight. Questions the 11 through 20 were all no. 21 and 22 are also no. If they qualify height and weight, questions 11 through 20 are no, but 21 and or 22 is a yes, then they all qualify for what we call our graded death benefit. Another thing that we do at the time of phone interview is we do what we call a prescription checklist. And this is a great handy tool for you to have out in the field when you're working with our companies. We color code it to make it easy for you. What you'll find on this color coded checklist is that if your client is taking a medication that's in red, such as Aricept, it'll be a flat decline because that's an indication that one of the knockout questions on the application should have been answered yes. You'll see that there are some medications that are in yellow or gold. What you'll find with these medications like Amyl, or you'll sometimes see it like a nitroglycerin or an isosorbide, is the computer system is going to go off of the last refill date of that prescription. And if the prescription check is showing that the last refill date was in the last 12 months, it'll be a flat decline. For example, one of the questions on the application is, have you had angina in the last 12 months? Well, if isosorbide was filled in the last 12 months, that's an indication that question should have been answered yes, and it's a decline. If that prescription was last filled between 12 and 24 months, then it would go graded due to one of the questions 21 and or 22 on the bottom of the application. Medications in green, what you'll find there is those are going to be an automatic graded if it shows that they had been filled in the last 2 years. An example of that would be like a Spiriva. Spiriva is for COPD. That's an indication that the COPD question should have been answered yes. Thus, with Trinity Life and Family Benefit, it would be graded. We do require a telephone interview with all final expense applications. We utilize a company called Family Benefit, or excuse me, a company called MRS to conduct our telephone interviews. And what you'll find with these telephone interviews is that our goal for you is going to be point of sale approval or decline. We want you to know that at the end of that telephone interview, when you hang up, how that policy is going to get issued. Because if you think about it, next week, we'd rather have you out in front of a new client writing us up a new application instead of having to go back to that same client next week saying, oh, I'm sorry, we got to do something different, because sometimes you might not even be able to get in front of them again as well. So again, our goal for you is point of sale approval or decline, because then also on top of that, if they're declined, then you know right then and there if you need to go guaranteed issue or with another telephone company. There are 2 different ways to do business with Trinity Life and Family Benefit on our final expense chassis. One of the ways is you can do a shorter phone interview with a paper application, or what a lot of agents are doing these days is they're doing a longer phone interview but it's a paperless application. The disadvantage on the paperless application is the phone interview, on average, is 10 minutes longer. However, the advantage is when you hang up that phone, you're done. You don't submit anything. You don't have to worry about any errors on any applications, and the policy's mailed out in 2 business days. So it's a really slick process. And because of that, the agents have adapted to it really well, and already 2/3 of our business is now on our paperless application process. What you'll find with the telephone interviews, and these steps are in your agent guide as well, but what you'll find is whether you're doing a paper or paperless telephone interview, the process is going to be very similar. You call in, they're going to ask you up front, hey, is it paper or paperless? You answer that question. They're going to gather then from you, the agent, information about your client, name, date of birth, street address, things of that nature. We're getting from you the minimal amount that we need to actually conduct the RX and a prescription check. We then put the client on the phone to verify the information that you gave them is correct. They just read it back to them. However, they do ask the client again for the date of birth, social security number, because what we're doing there a little bit is we're checking their cognitive abilities. Everybody should know their own social security number or date of birth. We then voice record your client's HIPAA and MIB authorizations, and then we immediately start asking those health questions, the height and weight question, the tobacco question, and the 12 health questions. While we're doing that, again, we are running the prescription check and an MIB because, again, the goal is point of sale approval or decline. If your client has a prescription that popped up that is in blue, for example, the Cinepril on our prescription checklist is in blue. Now, by far the majority of the time, that medication is for high blood pressure. However, if you research, you'll see that it can also be used for congestive heart failure and some other things as well. So because of that, those medications that pop up in blue, they will ask your client a series of usually 3 to 4 questions, such as why are you taking it? Have you been hospitalized for it in the last 12 months, etc. Because our goal, again, is to get these policies issued. We're a life insurance company. Our goal is to issue policies, not decline people. Once that they have been approved, they will verify that premium with you right then and there on the telephone. If you're doing the paper application, that's the end of the telephone interview. You'll find on average it took 15 minutes for that entire process is all. If you chose to do the paperless application, they're then going to get from you, the agent, the payment information, which would be like their bank account, what days to draft, things of that nature. They're then going to get from you, the agent, the beneficiary information. They're going to get from you, the agent, any replacement information if needed, and depending on your state. We then put your client back on the phone. We will voice record the authorization on the back of that application, which is one paragraph that they read to them. And then we will voice record the payment authorization. Then your client's done. And then they'll conclude with you, voice record your signature, and then ask you when and where you want that application mailed to. Do we want it to mail it directly to the policyholder, or do you prefer to deliver your own policies as well? There are 3 things that you do need to leave with the client, whether it's the paper or paperless application process. One of them is our accelerated living benefit rider summary and disclosure statement, which I'll show you here in a little bit. There's also an important notices section, which includes the MIB wording that needs to be left with the client, and then a replacement form, obviously, if needed, depending upon what your state's requirements are. The application, going back to itself as well, there are a few things here that I want to point out if you're going to choose to do a paper app instead of the paperless application, just to kind of make your life a little easier. The first part of that application, that again is just information about your client, the owner, and the payer. On the beneficiary section of the application, I do want to point out that we do ask for date of birth and social security number. What you'll find is that we'll issue your client's policy without the beneficiary's date of birth and social security number. However, I always strongly encourage you to be to provide it whenever possible. And the reason for that is that date of birth and social security number, it helps us find and identify the correct beneficiary. There are times when agents call us and say, hey, my client, Mrs. Betty Spendthrift, had passed away. Her son might be Michael Spendthrift. And so the agent puts Michael Spendthrift as the primary beneficiary. The relationship is son, and that's all we have. But the problem with that is now we're out there searching for Michael Spendthrift, and there might be 10 of them across the country. So if we had their date of birth and or social security number, it helps us more readily and easily identify, be able to contact that client, the beneficiary, get them paid in a much more quickly manner, because after all, that's why your client bought this policy. They're wanting us to get this money to their beneficiaries as soon as we possibly can. So that's the reason why we ask for date of birth and social security number. What you'll see here, as well as I point out, is let's suppose for a moment you have two primary beneficiaries. They want to split it 50-50 on the application itself. On the paper portion, there's what you can do is you can just cross off contingent, write 50% by both of their names, and then have the client initial that change. On the section 5 of the application, some of this is pretty self-explanatory, such as what are they applying for? Are they applying for simplified or graded, tobacco, non-tobacco? APL, for those of you who are not familiar with that term, it stands for automatic premium loan. And in my doing this for 20 some years, I've never seen or had anybody advise me why that should be no. In my opinion, automatic premium loan should always be yes. The reason for that is let's suppose for a moment, 5 years from now, your client goes into a hospital or an extended type care facility, something happens to their bank account. If the automatic premium loan is checked yes and something happens to their bank account, that gives the company the authority to go into borrow from the cash value of their life insurance policy to help them keep their policy in force. If that was marked no, then the client runs the risk of it lapsing. So automatic premium loan, in my opinion, should always be marked yes. Then the next set of boxes is just simply how, their mode of payment, annual, semi-annual, quarterly, or monthly. The next line is how much are they applying for? What is the modal premium? How much money did you collect? Or did you, most cases you're going to put a 0 for premium collected, and you're going to check the box for none draft premium. This third line in the same section is something I want to spend a little bit of time on, because this is a very important section of your application process with Trinity Life and Family Benefit. This section here is going to determine the issue date and the draft date of your client's policies. If you have a client who just simply wants to be drafted on, say, the 1st through the 28th of the month, you just simply write the month, date, and year in those boxes that following that draft date, and you're done. Leave the rest of the line blank. If you have a client who's wanting to be drafted on the, say, the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th Wednesday of the month, then leave that 1st through the 28th blank, because it then says or 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Wednesday, and then tell us what month and what year. If you run into a case where you have a client who maybe has wants their future effective date to be the beginning of next month, say the 3rd of October, but maybe their birthday is in September, and you're wanting to save age, not a problem. What you do in that situation is if the monthly draft date, you would, like on this example, is 11/5, but you could write in the day before their birthday. That would then be the issue date of their policy. Now, we will draft the premium on that day as well, though, so keep that in mind. So they'll have to make sure that there's money in their account on that day. If there's not, then they're just going to have to put the issue date as of October 3rd or 5th or whatever that you chose to do. But one of the things to make it easy for you to be able to save age, or if they want it to go into effect immediately with draft dates at a future date, if the monthly draft date, you fill in the first 3 boxes telling us, what is that issue date requested to be. Then at the bottom of that application, there's a box for additional information. You can simply write, please please draft upon issue with all future drafts to occur, say, on the third Wednesday of the month, beginning, October 3rd or whenever that might be, okay? So as I'd mentioned, that section 5, line 3 is a very important part of the application. It controls the issue date and the draft dates of your client's premium. Point out a couple of things on the back of the application for agents who choose paper applications. I want to point out some boxes that they sometimes forget to check. One of them especially is in that acknowledgement section that needs to be checked yes. There's a couple other questions. One of them is, I acknowledge that I paid the agent X amount of dollars in initial premium. The majority of the time that is going to be 0 because of course we're going to be drafting the first month's premium. And then if that's going to be 0, that next box asking about the conditional receipt is kind of irrelevant. You should check one of them, but it doesn't matter if it's yes or no because conditional receipt only comes into play if you're actually submitting money with the application. And then there's that form that you check stating that they have received the disclosure notification for the accelerated living benefit rider. Another thing I often see agents sometimes miss on these applications is they forget to put what city and state the applicant signed it in. That is an important part. And then we also have a box that you tell us where you want this particular policy to be mailed to. Do you want us to mail it to you, the agent, or the policy owner themselves? The bottom of the application is what we call our bank authorization form. Now, this is if you do not want your client's account to be timed to Social Security benefit billing system. So for example, let's say you have a client who wants their premiums to be drafted on the 3rd of the month. If you do not want it timed to Social Security benefit billing, you fill out the bottom of the back of the app, which is the bank authorization section. If you do want it to be timed to their Social Security benefit billing deposit date, you then fill out, going the wrong direction, you then fill out our Social Security benefit billing form. So for example, your client has a 3rd of the month. If they want us to draft the day that the government deposited money into their account, use this form. And we'll draft it on the Friday before the weekend. If you do not use this form, then we have to wait until Monday after the weekend, like most of your other companies. Then for a lot of your clients, it's too late. The money's going to be gone. If you're using the paperless application system, it's real simple. During the telephone interview, they just simply ask you, is this Social Security benefit billing related, yes or no? And how you answer that question will then determine when do we draft your client's bank account. This form here for Social Security, it is only for checking and savings accounts. Obviously, it's only for the 1st of the month, 3rd of the month, or 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Wednesday of the month, because as we all know, those are the only days of the month that the government actually deposits money into their bank account. You heard me mention a couple of times earlier an accelerated living benefit rider. Trinity Life and Family Benefit, our final expense policy, has a rider built into the policy. What's nice about this particular rider is there's no additional premium. So if your client never used the rider, it never cost them anything. But what this rider is it's an accelerated living benefit rider that can be triggered by 2 events. It can be triggered by either a terminal illness of 12 months or less, or permanent qualified nursing home confinement. And the reason why I'm stressing this permanent qualified nursing home confinement is the main reason, as you know, your client buys these policies is to help pay for their funerals. And the majority of them, if they go into a nursing home, they're going to end up having to cash surrender or cancel their life insurance policy because they probably can't afford it anymore. And ultimately, a lot of them end up on Medicaid. Most states, Medicaid does not allow your client to have much of liquid assets. Most states are only $2,000 in assets. So if their life insurance policy, or if they have more than $2,000 in assets, most states are going to require them to cash it in. Well, now they really don't have much to go and prepay for a funeral, maybe just a few $100. But with Trinity Life and Family Benefit, If they're confined to a qualified nursing home for the rest of their life, they can accelerate the death benefit. And now they have the money to go and prepay their funeral, because most states' Medicaids allow them to have a prepaid funeral. And again, that's why they bought the policy to begin with. So in my opinion, this accelerated living benefit rider for permanent qualified nursing home is worth its weight in gold to your clients when they use it. The purpose of this form as well, it is to be signed and dated at the time of application, but I do want to emphasize that it stays with the client. If you're submitting a paper application, do not submit it. The form actually stays with the client themselves. The next slide, of which is if you are submitting a paper application, these are the submission instructions for our final expense application. You can either fax it, you can mail it, or you can also upload it through the agent portal. What you're going to find with Trinity Life Insurance and Family Benefit is for agents who issue the majority of your policies with our companies, you're going to find that we're going to issue the majority of your policies. What I mean by that is if you're writing a good chunk of your policies, most of your clients are going to qualify for us. But if you're writing maybe a policy just every now and then that might not qualify with other companies, then they might not qualify for us either. But what you're going to find ultimately with Trinity Life and Family Benefit is that we're going to reward you for quantity and quality of your production with our companies. And we're going to reward the quantity in one of two ways. Number one is our company trips are known for three things. Our company trips are either known to be either easier to qualify for, or they're a lot higher caliber of a trip than other companies. But most important, in my opinion, is in the last few years, we don't 1099 the agents on the trips. So depending on their tax bracket, that saves the agent a few $1,000s in income tax, which is worth about another 5 to 7% in first year commission. So that's one of the way that we reward you is on our trips. To kind of give you an idea of the trips, last year we went on a European river cruise through Germany, Austria, and Hungary. The entry level for the agent and their guest was only $70,000 of annualized life premium, and that was for the agent and their guest. We were to go to Portugal this year. We were going to have 3 nights in Lisbon and 3 nights in Porto. Unfortunately, with the coronavirus, we tried to postpone it. We did get it postponed. However, still not being able to fly there, we did cancel it. The agents are going to be remunerated with cash instead. And the trip the agents are qualifying for right now, as you can see on the screen, it's going to be for 7 days, 6 nights in Ireland. There's going to be 3 nights at the Westbury in Dublin, and then 3 nights at the Dromelin Castle. Again, entry level for the agent and their guest is only $70,000. So that's why I say it's a little easier to qualify for, or a higher caliber trip than a lot of final expense companies are doing today. Another way that we're going to reward you for your quantity is we have a lead bonus program. I've been doing this for 20 years, this lead bonus program. The agents seem to really love it because what it does is it helps co-op your advertising and lead costs. And how it does, or how it works is we're going to reward that agent based on their quantity of annualized premium that was issued in a month. For agents who issue $5,000 of annualized premium in a month or more, which is an average of 8 policies, they get a 5% bonus of that annualized premium that we issued. And how it works is let's see, we're in September. So since we're in September, the first week in November, we want a report showing us every agent who issued $5,000 of annual premium or more in the month of September. We have to wait a month. That's the reason why I'm emphasizing November, because if somebody free looked at in October, I can't give the agent a bonus if I didn't get any premium. But in that first week in November, we then look at that block of business. If the agent had a net of, say, $9,000 annualized issued premium in September that's still in force, that agent gets an email from us thanking them for their business, and their lead voucher would be for $450, 5% of the $9,000. The agent then places the lead order with the company of their choice. It doesn't matter to us. We're not in the lead business. But then that lead company then invoices us and we write them a check for the amount that's on that agent's voucher. From time to time, you'll see we also do double lead bonus credits. We do that from time to time as well to help reward the agents also. Those are the two ways we reward the agents for the quantity of business. The quality of business is rewarded from the standpoint that our renewal commission is higher than most other companies, but ultimately, really where the agents make a lot of their money with Trinity Life and Family Benefit is in that higher persistency because of our Social Security benefit billing system. We've been doing that for 5 years now. And why more companies aren't doing it, I don't know, because it definitely helps with your persistency. It helps us by beating your client to the bank, because we know we can't draft a day too soon because the money's not going to be there for most of them. But if we wait and draft a couple of days late, unfortunately, that money's gone as well, and then the policy falls off the books. One of the things also that I want to mention here in your reasons of wanting to build a relationship with Trinity Life Insurance, and I think David will attest to this, is one of the keys to working with our companies is building a good working relationship, building that relationship to where any time you have a question, comment, or concern, that you're comfortable enough and you pick up the phone to give me a call. So that way we can always decide what's best for you, the client, and the company, because we do strive to be an easy company to do business with. So in closing, I do want to thank you all for your time and attention today and learning a little bit more about Trinity Life and Family Benefit and our final expense program. For those of you who have had the opportunity to write with our companies, thank you. For those of you who have not yet had the opportunity to write, my suggestion is just go out and write a couple apps for yourself, right? 4 or 5 apps. That way you can decide for yourself about Trinity Life and Family Benefit being an easy company to do business with, because that is what we strive for. So again, thank you all for your time and attention today. And David, I also want to thank you again for giving me this opportunity to visit with you and your agent. So David, I'll turn it back over to you if there's any questions or anything you'd like for me to try to answer.
Yeah, so any questions from the audience here, feel free to hop in and ask. Question from John. You may have addressed this. I think you did. Telesales, yes or no?
Telesales, thank you for asking. During the COVID at the stay-at-home orders, in about the middle of March, we allowed all agents to start selling over the telephone with Trinity Life and Family Benefit. And we advised agents up front when we allowed that. We said, as you know, we are a face-to-face company. We've always thought of the agent as being our first line of defense in underwriting, because the agent can tell if the client's sitting in a wheelchair smoking a cigarette and on oxygen, whereas we can't. MIB, you get a valid hit about 3% of the time. Prescription check, you get a valid hit about half of the time. So we then told the agents, okay, starting March until June 1st, we'll allow the telesales. And then when June 1st came along, we went back to requiring our agents see the clients face-to-face. Now, depending upon the states, what state they're in, depending upon if they're still stay-at-home orders or not, is what we're currently going by and adjusting that. Now, all of this being said, though, that 3-month time frame that we were doing it from March through June was a real good test for us. And what we're doing is we're in the process of going back, looking at our placement ratios, the persistency ratios, because we're going to be able to calculate the persistency here before long to be able to project a model on that. Then, of course, the mortality we won't know for several years, but currently we do require face-to-face sales. However, that might be loosening up in the near future. So thank you for asking.